Welcome to Lovesick, the podcast where we dive into health, wellness, and relationships and their impact on the world today. Come be a part of the discussion and join our community by following us on YouTube, Instagram, and listening wherever you get your favorite podcast. Enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome back to the Lovesick podcast. We are kicking off a new season. I am Jada, of course, that the real Jada Ford, and with me,
Dorothea, at the Dorothea McGuire, the real Dorothea McGuire.
We're a little bit rusty. We're coming back. We are happy to have Titus again. We love having Titus on the show. Welcome back, Titus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, ladies. Pleasure.
Of course. So, we always love talking about men's mental health and, going into the summer. Summer, is a different season for some. And, we wanted to chat with you again. And we love always chatting with you about all things health and wellness. And so thank you again for joining us. How are you?
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So what's going on?
Not a whole lot, still trying to not still trying to, but still helping people with their physical health and even mental health as well. It's an everyday task. So
yeah,
Titus,
especially in today's society. There you go.
That's true. One thing that I really wanted to talk about today, and I know you would speak on it in reference to the men, the testosterone health. And the importance of it and everything that comes along with it. I know that's a topic sometimes that men, they don't want to talk about. So do you mind kind of like giving us some information about why it's so important and why men should, be serious about their health and especially testosterone health?
Okay. Well, testosterone is one of the most important hormones when it comes down to men's health. And believe it or not, a man's testosterone levels throughout his life are affected by what his mother feeds him in the first 6 months of life. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. A 6-month-old baby is producing testosterone at the same rate as a grown man. And the thing that actually helps him produce more quality testosterone that is going to affect how he goes through puberty, right, is the amount and the quality of his mother's breast milk. Because contrary to what a lot of people haven't been told, is that breast milk has probably the highest concentration of cholesterol, which is a key element for the manufacturing of testosterone in a man's body. And the amount of that breast milk, the quality of that breast milk, and the amount of testosterone that child is able to produce within that first 6 months is going to dictate how they age, their strength, and a lot of their levels for a lot of their life.
Wow, that's actually
so it starts that early.
Yeah. Wow, that's very.
Because I have a son who I breastfed almost a year, didn't do it the whole year, but that's not something that like my doctor was like. They tell you more of like if you want your kid to be a doctor when they grow up, but they never say like for the first 6 months you should be eating this because this affects this for your son or child, the testosterone levels. We never learn that kind of stuff, and that's very interesting. Well,
the sad thing is that unfortunately, many of your doctors don't even know that. Mm-hmm. If your doctors knew, this is a little segue, but if your doctors knew how important cholesterol was to the overall development of everyone and the overall health and maintenance of health of everyone, they probably wouldn't be trying to put you on a statin ever at all.
Mm. Wow.
Right.
See, that's why we love you. You enlighten us. You definitely give us the education that we need, the viewers need. And things like you say that is not shared by medical professionals.
Well, the here's the I want to make sure make sure that we understand. I'm not saying that doctors are bad people.
Right.
Okay. My father was a doctor, just to FYI, you guys know that. And my father told me, and this is an exact quote from him: just because I'm a doctor does not mean I'm educated. All it means is that I am trained. I am trained to do this job by one particular person or one particular entity in how they want me to do it. So it doesn't even really mean that I'm well trained. I'm just trained how to do it one way, the way that I needed to pass that test. Now, in order for me to be well trained, I have to learn it in many different ways, but that doesn't even mean I'm educated. He says, in order to be educated, and this is my father's actual words, in order to be educated, you have to know a lot about a lot.
All right. Yeah.
And so I asked that, at this time, because my dad talked to me like an adult. I said, well, how do you know a lot about a lot? He says, always remember this rule: never know nothing about the same thing twice.
Ooh, that's good to pass on to kids too.
Never know nothing
Yeah.
about the same thing twice.
Huh.
If it came up once, it'll come up again.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Titus.
I like that.
Yeah, definitely. Very wise man. Now we see where you get it from.
Well, you always have to evolve too.
Yeah,
so
you
as
have
times
to.
change, yeah.
The one thing I wanted to know as well is how do men know if their testosterone levels are low? Like, what kind of symptoms do they actually get if it's low,
There are symptoms.
or if
Well,
there are any symptoms at all?
one of the telltale symptoms of lower testosterone is lower sex drive, lower sexual performance, loss of muscle mass, loss of energy, loss of mental, being mentally acute, um, moodiness, irritability. All these things are telltale signs of, of lower testosterone. Muscle weakness. Yeah. But the sad thing about it is that it happens gradually. And so, you don't really notice the drop off most men don't notice the drop off in their sexual performance and or even their physical strength. Because what happens as people get older, they do less, right? And unfortunately for some men, right, they also get supremely confident over nothing. So they think they're still doing it like they was doing it. And luckily for them, women are nice and women don't tell them the truth.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yes.
that part,
That part.
yeah, it's almost like it's the same way the guy who drinks a lot of alcohol and thinks that he's doing something.
Right.
Actually, no, you suck. She just didn't tell you.
Oh boy, I know some women gonna love you right now, Titus. They're gonna be like that part. Now, is there a blood test for that that they can go and get some lab work done?
Yeah, you can easily get your testosterone levels tested very easily. Okay. It's a very easy test. A lot of people, you can send your levels to be tested through the mail. They send you the stuff, you take it and you put it in the mail, and they'll give you all those results. That's an actually easy test to get administered. But we have to also look at our society and what our society actually wants too, because our society doesn't warn men about that. Because guess what? Men with higher levels of testosterone are harder to control.
Okay.
Right. And when you want a society of docile men, what do? You feed them foods to help lower the testosterone. So when we look at the dietary guidelines, even when we look at some of the foods that have been promoted to people for the longest periods of time. And so right now in America, you have guys who are 30 years old whose testosterone levels are lower than what a 60-year-old would have been in 1970.
Wow.
Damn.
Gee.
Think about it this way. And me and my brother were laughing about this. It's like, you walk around now. When was the last time you walked by a guy that you looked at and said, "Yeah, I don't want to meet this guy in an alley"?
Yeah. Well.
Nobody. I don't know.
But men used to be a lot bigger, stronger, more virile, and they're not like that right now. They're a
Right.
lot. You see a lot smaller guys, frailer guys, and you got your occasional big people,
Right.
right? But even their strength levels are not the same as it used to be.
But what about like supplements? Don't they offer supplements for like testosterone, or is it you thinking it's more in the
They,
food now to boost
they
the
do offer supplements, but we have to remember, what is that word?
right
Supplement.
Supplement.
supplements? Yeah.
Supplement.
Yeah.
Right.
Supplement is not the thing. The supplement is there to boost the thing. I own a supplement company,
Right.
Right.
and I always tell people, you first of all, you have to eliminate the things that are causing the problem first. Then you have to fix your actual lifestyle next. And once you have fixed your lifestyle and eliminated all the things that are causing the problem, now the supplement can supplement what you're doing.
Mhm.
But the
Right.
supplement is not a replacement. Okay.
And yeah, some people think that's the answer. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't have to do anything. I'll just take some
Well,
supplements.
right. I mean, that's what a lot of people do
Right.
when it's like, I'll just take this. Just
Right.
like even when we say like the weight loss shots, we're like, oh, I'm just gonna take it, but I don't need to go do the workout or eat better because
Right.
it's like this drug is
Exactly.
gonna do the thing. But what are the things that are causing the testosterone to drop? Like, what are those things?
Excess sugar,
Mm.
excess carbohydrates, so spiking your insulin level constantly, alcohol, poor sleep, stress. Yeah, all these things. And then not only that, but then you also have the actual hormonal disruptors that people are putting in their bodies. Things like colognes and things those fragrances and all those different things like that. Those things are actually disrupting your body's hormonal balance.
Whoa.
So that's like almost someone's everyday life.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yes. So think about the amount of hormone issues that the average young lady is having
Yeah.
right now
Yes.
Right.
that did not exist 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
100%.
So when I was maybe a teenager, 20 years old, a girl coming out, right?
Right.
Makeup was lip gloss, eyeliner. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Lip gloss and eyeliner. That was makeup.
Right.
Mhm.
It was not this whole full face of makeup. Today, a young lady doesn't leave her house unless she has a full art project on her face.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's true.
218 plus chemicals that they're coming into contact with every single day, many of which are endocrine disruptors.
Yeah.
Then we're not even talking about the fabrics and the feminine products and stuff like that that they're
Right.
putting on and sometimes in their bodies. All right. The hair stuff, the chemicals in the hair, the weaves. Most of those weaves are made out of plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
And so when you start to add these things up, these things are disrupting your hormones. These things are promoting inflammation. So then you see this excessive rise in things like endometriosis, PCOS, erectile dysfunction in men as early as 30 now.
Jeez.
All right. Yeah, it's common.
Right.
It's very common. And now, they always have a prescription for you. You can take this, you can take that, you can take this, you can take that, as opposed to solving the root cause. What is the root
Right.
cause? All right. So you can't fix a health issue, right, by adding something. You have to first, I always say addition by subtraction. What's causing the problem? You're not even asking that question.
Mm.
So we're seeing a rise in all these hormonal issues. We're seeing a rise in inflammatory issues. We're seeing a rise in mental issues,
Mhm. Mhm.
and no one wants to ask what's the cause. Everybody wants to give you a cure, But is it really a cure, or is it just a patch?
Mm.
Everything's a Band-Aid, right?
Right.
Everything's a
Everything's a
Band-Aid. Because
Yeah.
the root of the cause takes too long, but if you can put a patch over or a
Right.
Band-Aid,
Yeah.
you could solve it really quick. It's
But if I
the-
stop the bleeding, then I can't continue to sell you Band-Aids.
That's right.
And they don't
Exactly.
want to, and they don't want to stop the bleeding.
That's right. That's where
Right.
the money comes in.
Exactly.
It's profitable to not have that done so they can make the money off the products and,
I
and
mean,
unfortunately you suffer.
think about it this way: if pharmaceutical company, well, name me one cure that any pharmaceutical company has actually produced in the last 20 years. One cure for one disease.
I can't even think of any. I
So
mean,
it's nothing but
yeah,
treatments. There's no cure.
yeah,
Right.
Right. Mostly things just come from food. Right?
yeah.
Like just
That's why I was like, I can't even think of any. Yeah. Okay.
There aren't any.
Right.
There aren't any.
I mean,
Because when you cure a disease, it ends the money.
right.
That's true.
And when I did a deep dive into this, there was actually one disease and one drug that they actually did cure over the last 30 years. It was a drug for hepatitis C.
Okay.
And they actually asked I believe it was Goldman Sachs who funded it. They said they would never do that again because it's an unprofitable business model.
Mm.
You're killing your own market. Right. So and it's sad because my mother passed away from cancer, but it's sad every year you see the race for the cure. And over the last 25 years, people have done all these races and, the race for the cure and all that kind of stuff like that. And people have donated millions of dollars. And every year, cancer cases rise.
Yeah.
Diabetes. Think about diabetes. 20 years ago, I think diabetes was a $250 million business. Today is $110 billion.
Wow.
Do you think the people who are running these dialysis clinics and these things, do you think they're getting together right now and saying, "Hey guys, next year we got to find a way to reduce our profits. We got to get that 110 billion down to 50"? Or
Yeah.
do you think they're devising a means to get it to 200?
Yeah.
And how can they get it to 200? Yeah, how can they get it to 200 if more people don't get diabetes?
Right.
Well, yeah, no, they'd be out of business. No, how would they make money?
Right.
Yeah, of course.
It would be out of business.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And well,
Think about
also,
it this way.
also I feel like with resources, some of these places aren't gonna feel like they can afford. Well, medicine. There's a lot of people who can't afford medicine either. Actually, I don't know. You're damned if you do or damned if you don't, I guess.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. And this is another research I did. The most profitable business in the Western world is chronic disease.
Mhm.
Because once you create a customer, you're a customer for life, because they indoctrinate you, first of all, by believing in the system that only their means is the way you can take care of this chronic disease.
Right.
They indoctrinate you to believe that. Many people still walk around believing that type 2 diabetes is genetic. They make you powerless because they make you think that there's nothing you can do about it other than take this drug. And if you don't take this drug, you're going to die. Okay?
Mhm.
And so then at that point, you don't have a choice. You have people making choices between their diabetic medication and food. All right? And little do they know that you can reverse type 2 diabetes. I've done it for dozens of people. I've helped them get off of diabetic medication in under 60 days.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
done strictly by diet.
Right.
But
Because
they can't afford for you to know that.
Right. Because there are a
Right.
lot of folks that feel like that it's like you can't reverse it. And I know
Yeah,
some
well,
people that think, oh, it can't be reversed.
yeah. Well, the thing is that, okay, programming is everything. We talk about mental health. We talk about everything. And if you listen to the programming, you will find that you are being programmed, prodded every single day to have a particular mindset. I saw a commercial, and there was a heavy set, younger African American lady, and she was talking about how she was concerned about her health because her grandmother, who she looked up to, just died, and she was diabetic. But she put two key things in there that were programming. Number one, I'm happy being a plus size girl. That's one programming. So they're trying to normalize being overweight. And then other programming, and I know that type 2 diabetes is genetic. They said this on a commercial. And then right after that, what is she selling? She's selling a GLP-1 product. Okay. So now you think is benign, and maybe you don't even notice it. But imagine hearing that over and over and over. You're hearing it on the TV, you're hearing it from your doctor. What then? Why would you even listen to somebody like me who tells you no, it's not genetic?
Right.
And even sometimes you'll see somebody who will say point blank, I was type 2 diabetic. I've taken some people off of those medications that were on those medications for 11 years. They go and they tell their family who knows they were on the medication. One lady actually went into a diabetic coma, and then she reached out to me, and within 60 days she was off. And guess what? They get pushback from their family. People who know the history. Why? Programming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a full-scale effort to make this happen. So, bring it back to men and mental health and even physical health, right? Well, they tell men that when you get to 40, your body's supposed to just basically crash. They tell everybody that. And so when they start to see these things going left, what do? They just go get the pill.
Right.
It's an easy fix.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like it.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like it. And so when you even look at how even the whole cholesterol thing, cholesterol drugs, right, or statins is the number one drug prescribed in America. Number one. Okay. I believe it's in the world, but yeah, definitely in America. All right. Well, within 6 months of being on a cholesterol lowering drug, a man will, not might, he will require a prescription for erectile dysfunction, because it lowers your cholesterol to the point where your body is not adequately producing testosterone anymore. So you need an artificial. So one drug opens the door for two.
Right.
Okay.
And then 2, and then 3, 4. This is what we
Yeah.
talk about very often.
Yes.
It's like, I need this drug to supplement this drug. Yep. And then 3, 4, 5. And then you're taking a lot of drugs.
When you hear the side effects of a drug,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
That's just not a side effect. Your dry mouth doesn't mean your mouth is dry.
Right.
Your dry mouth means there's something else going wrong that is causing this symptom. But what do? We play whack-a-mole with the symptoms and never say, well, what is the root cause of this? So I'm sure you guys know people who have been on high blood pressure medication for a while, and now they have kidney issues. Yep. And then once they start having problems with their kidney, they give them a drug for that. And it just keeps going and going. And you look up, and the average person over 50 years old is on at least 4 medications.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's scary. And what about food for the guys and testosterone? Testosterone? Are there like certain foods that, they should be eating to prevent having issues with testosterone?
Well, there's foods that they can eat that will promote better testosterone production in their body. Mm-hmm. So things like eggs, meat, avocado. Yeah, those things are great at helping your body produce more testosterone because they're loaded with the minerals and the nutrients your body requires the raw materials your body requires to produce. Right. If there was any supplement you'd want to take, the first thing you want to take is vitamin D.
Mm.
Yeah.
So why vitamin D?
But vitamin D is one of the bases of your testosterone production because the cholesterol is used in your body, right? Cholesterol and ultraviolet light is used in your body to produce vitamin D, and vitamin D is what underpins most of your hormones, men and women. So, like, even take for instance African American women, right? Why do African American women have an issue with fibroids? Because have you heard that most African American women are chronically deficient in vitamin D?
Yeah.
And
I've heard about
fibroids. Yeah. And fibroids is a symptom of an acute vitamin D deficiency. So why is that? Because most African American women either A, do not spend any time in the sunlight because what? They tell you, oh, I don't like to go out when the sun, they stay out of the sun, and then their diets don't support. But then when you go to Africa, why is fibroids not a big deal in Africa? Because a lot of women in Africa spend a lot of time in the sun.
Right. Well,
we live
and so your body takes care of the rest.
Look, we stay in the sun. We're in California. We at the beach. We in the sun all the time.
So you think about it 40, 50 years ago,
right,
when people were out at the beach and doing more things outside.
Yeah,
fibroids were not as big of a deal.
Right.
It all comes down to something natural. All right. And if you fix the root cause, once again, right, you fix most of your issues.
And it's never too late to start, right? It's never too late to start, no matter what age you are, what type of issues you're going through. There's always a way to start and try to get yourself together, I guess.
Create new habits.
No, well, I don't want you to even say like try to get yourself together.
Yeah.
You can make massive improvements.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a gentleman right now that I've worked with for the last maybe year and 3 months. He was 67 when I met him. 67-ish, yeah. When I met him, all right? And, he was going to the gym. He was in decent shape for the average 67-year-old. He was going to the gym 3 or 4 days out the week. He would go in there. He would do his little treadmill. He would do his little 30 pounds, He was decent, okay? He wasn't overweight. I started working with him. He was on a high blood pressure medication, but no low dose. I started working with him in March of last year. When I started working with him, he could probably do about 3 or 4 pull-ups, which is pretty decent, right? Mm-hmm. Fast forward 1 year later, he's off high blood pressure medication. He can now do as many as 25 pull-ups straight.
Wow.
And when he went to go to get his physical, his doctor said point blank, his doctor has been doing, and he does executive physicals. His doctor has been doing his executive physical for over a decade. And he says this is the best physical he's had in over a decade since he's known.
Wow,
his numbers are off the chart.
Go ahead, Titus.
No, it's just, once again, it's the simple fixes.
Right. Yeah.
And if I can tell you, if there was one particular or 2 particular things I pulled out of his diet, right? I pulled sugar and dairy out of his diet.
And that's hard for a lot of people too.
Very.
It's really hard. It's like addictive. You know what I mean? It's a drug basically, because sugar and it's on a lot of things that you eat, Sugar
is one of the most corrosive things to the human body.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah.
So if there was one thing you wanted that you had to say, if I remove this, it will fix a lot of things with my health. Sugar.
Yeah.
So when you remove sugar, guess what? You also remove all processed food, because every processed food has a derivative of some kind of sugar in it.
Right.
All right. Any added sugar. So I don't care if even if it's natural. If you got to add sugar to it, nope.
Yeah.
Sugar is the devil.
Yeah.
So it boils down at that point.
Yeah.
It boils down at that point to whole foods.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's a deep dive. Like people, you know what I mean? Because like you said, sometimes some people, they know what they need to stop doing. And it's just hard. It's like a person smoking cigarettes, and they're addicted to the tobacco, but it's not good for you.
Well, some things are habits too.
Right.
So
a habit, bad habit. And just like that, it's hard to just stop, but you got to do it.
Here's the thing, Dorothy, and I've heard people make that excuse. And anytime that comes up, you hear people, I call it hemming and hawing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. How people hem and haw. Well, it's so hard for me to make it to the gym and this thing and this thing and this thing, until they get stage 4 cancer.
Yep.
You notice how people are always busy and they can't because they got this, they got that. Have you ever heard of anyone who has stage 4 cancer that said I was too busy to make my chemo appointment?
Right.
That's right.
That part.
You're right.
Right.
No.
That part.
So at day's end, it's a matter of will.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Anything and nothing. I always say nothing is inherently hard.
That's right.
Okay. We make it hard. How hard is it to not eat sugar? I mean, the sugar doesn't jump in your mouth. You have to physically eat it. And you know what you're doing when you're doing it.
Right.
That's true.
That is true.
There you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
we could go on and on, but there was this whole habit thing that I
Yeah.
had to break one time because I used to like the gym that I would go to. I would always make my way to this one store after, like the Whole Foods, and I'd always stop and get a coffee, and I'd grab something from there, and I'd be like, "Why am I not saving money?" But all I did was go the opposite way one time, and I had no desire to stop at the store because I was just like, I didn't even want the coffee, but because I would always leave that store and go there. But if I went the other way, I was like, I didn't even miss it. Like I just went home, and then it was just like, but that's the way, even if I was go get an ice cream or anything, it would just be like, just go the other way. And then I didn't even think about it. And then it was just like, go home.
Yeah.
That's the same thing you could do with, I mean, not saying it's the same thing anybody could do with sugar, but sometimes it just takes
It's
that.
the same thing.
Yeah. It's just, you just take that one thing and just try something.
Is willingness.
Yeah.
Is willingness. And when you're willing, you'll find a way to either include it or exclude it.
100%.
Right.
100%.
You have to have the willpower.
Yeah.
Because like, if you notice, and I notice when I go into stores, the stores set up a floor plan so they can trap you into looking at certain items before you even go down the
But
aisle.
sometimes you could just
You
go down
know?
a different aisle than you normally would. Like sometimes if
Right.
you're used to going down that one aisle first,
Right.
go down a different way and then come back around. Like I just honestly had to start doing stuff like that too. It's
But
like ridiculous.
We make okay.
They
The
do.
stores will do their job, all right.
They be putting that shit
But
up there.
when we use words like trap you, we make ourselves sound like a victim.
I'm not saying they're
Because no,
trapping me. I just said they no, I said trap. But what I meant was when you go into the store, you have to be focused and like you said, have willpower because they're trying to make money. So they're gonna put all these different things in the floor and the lot, in the right area as soon as you come in.
But
to-
Trader Joe's and Whole Foods don't. They put
No,
But-
I'm
but
not saying that,
Dorothea-
but they try. You know what I mean? Come on now,
here's
Titus.
here's the funny part. You say trap you like you don't know the trap is there. How
I know it's there.
I'm gonna let her die on this sword alone. I don't agree with
no.
this.
No, I know it's there, but I'm just saying, like, for the viewers that's watching, that they do set it up like that, where, if you don't have the willpower and you walk into the store and the first thing you see are donuts or, all the sweet, sugary stuff, then it's like, oh my gosh, you start getting all this stuff that's not good.
Dorothea, you're married, right?
Yes.
And you're married too, right?
Yes.
So imagine if hypothetical, your husband walks into a whorehouse for some water, right? Because he's thirsty. And he said, I walked in there and they trapped me.
I'm gonna get a
You
T-shirt
know
to say they trapped me.
You knew what they were selling in there now. You knew what they were selling, all right?
All right, that's a good one, Titus. I think I'm
You
gonna
knew
get a
exactly
T-shirt.
what they were selling when you walked
See,
in. Ain't nobody trapped
There
you.
it is.
That was boom. That was
See?
good, Titus. That was good. I'll give you that one. That was good. Yep,
So
that
nobody's
well.
trapped.
Yep.
Unless you want to be trapped. Point taken there, Titus. But anyway,
Oh my gosh, that was good, Titus.
so we're wrapping up. We thank you for being with us, Titus, and spreading the word about testosterone.
Yes.
Because honestly, like, these are good things though that we do
Yes.
need to know about, because
Yeah.
this is we always learn every
Yeah.
time we're here. And I think it's
And we want to talk more about some men issues. And we knew you were the guy. Like, we got to go back to our health guru, and get him on this show so we can talk about and spread some love and some prevention to the guys and all that good stuff. So we definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and so even with testosterone, I want you to also remember it starts earlier. So even with mothers, understanding, this whole idea of feeding your kids bottles versus breast milk. Give your kid breast milk as long as you can, because the longer you give that kid good quality breast milk, the better they're going to develop. It starts that early. Okay? Because when you start feeding them soy is a hormonal disruptor. And so if you're giving that kid soy from an early age, they're not going to develop as well. Okay? And so certain masculine characteristics and stuff, they're not going to have it. We're seeing a lot of that too.
Wow.
Okay.
Woo.
That's powerful. Whoa, but that is true.
Good to know. Especially when you're out
Yeah.
there dating people.
Well, this is listen. I shouldn't even say it's controversial. It's just factual because one thing I don't do is I don't anything I say you can look up.
Right.
I always like to say that in my life. Don't take my word for it. Look it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would urge people to look that up.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts.
It's good. We
And
learn a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. You will find a lot about how people develop depending on the length of time that they were breastfed, the quality of the breast milk.
Wow.
The developmental changes are way different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not here to shame the moms who cannot
No,
breastfeed.
it's not
Yeah.
shaming. Here's the thing we have to understand. You're not necessarily responsible for what you don't know.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is to make sure that they do get to know this.
Absolutely.
Right.
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 Yeah.
No, that's true. Education is everything. And
Before I knew better, I used to feed my kids McDonald's. My oldest, we used to go to McDonald's all the time.
Hey, that was cool in the 80s. I mean, I don't know how your kids are, but that was a treat. We would go to McDonald's like
And she used to tear up some nuggets, but now you know better, you do better.
Right,
So,
right, yeah. I like that. You know better, you do better, and that is so true.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely
McDonald's
true.
parties and Burger King parties
I
are
know.
chain, so it's like 80s kids. Anyway.
Titus Unlimited, I tell you, one of the members of the sophisticated Silver Fox Squad, which is awesome. We thank you so much because we know that you're a busy man, but to support us on the show, to lend your expertise, we really appreciate you.
Always, ladies. I'm always available for you whenever you want to chat. If I got the time, you got me.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Titus. And you have a wonderful day in Miami, a wonderful week. And we'll be at the beach in California. And I know you'll be at the beach in Miami. So we do have something in common.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for watching and listening. And we're always here. Bye-bye.